Fantastic. Thank you for having us. We are coming from Pick Everard. We're going to be talking about our journey today in terms of talent strategy and our implementation of Eploy. So to give a bit of an overview of what we'll be talking about, we're obviously going to be talking about Pick Everard, our business, our journey so far. We've been on a massive journey in terms of our talent strategy, implementation of Eploy, the importance of data, and finally kind of next steps in terms of what we are aiming to do in the future. So that's me, Bethany Serino. I'm Talent Acquisition Advisor, and my esteemed colleague over here, Alison.
I don't normally get let out. I'm normally the data person. I hide behind the spreadsheet, so not very good at presenting. Do apologise. My role is kind of a dual part role, so I look after our core HR. I look after a team of people administrators who look after our core day-to-day HR delivery. And I also then get involved in strategic projects. And my primary function, the reason why I was brought into the team, was to look after our digital HR strategy, which included the reconfiguration and re-implementation of Eploy.
So, different kind of ends of the spectrum in terms of our people and culture team, but very much working together in everything we do. So who we are, Pick Everard, we are a multidisciplinary construction and property consultancy. So we don't physically build on site, but we will handle all aspects of a project for a client, from conception through to delivery. We have architects in-house, project managers, everyone you can imagine to make that project come to life. We work across all sectors, public and private. We deliver on schools, hospitals, libraries, everything really. The only sector we don't really go into as much is infrastructure, although this is, plans for the future. We would like to go into that more. We have a national coverage and scale. We have 15 offices across the UK, with Leicester being our head office, where we're coming to you from today. And we stand at the moment around 650 staff, with really ambitious growth plans going forward. Vision-focused delivery and a really long history, which we're really proud of, over 150 years within the UK market. So in terms of the context of where we're coming from, really, and many of you, of course, will understand this if you're within the construction industry yourselves, but this is a very fast-paced industry. Work is not always guaranteed, and it really kind of depends on the market that we're in as to what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And so this, of course, has an impact upon talent attraction and everything that we're doing internally. At the moment, there is an industry-wide skills shortage, which has led to it being a very candidate-driven market, very competitive. There are more vacancies to fill than there are people to fill them, essentially. So it's very, very competitive. And this kind of leads into upskilling and things that we want to offer to kind of support growth internally as well. Of course, in terms of staff retention, this is something that we're always looking at internally. Cost of living has really made salaries a massive talking point. People are asking for more, people expect more when they're joining us. Upskilling, as I said, people want to join us and be able to learn something new, gain a qualification, and of course also looking at our benefits and culture. How can we make sure that people, when they join us, are going to be fulfilled, happy, they're not going to go anywhere else, essentially. COVID, of course, has made it very different in terms of our motivations as a workforce. Many people have actually left the workforce, and we found that more 50 to 64-year-olds are taking early retirement. So, that candidate-driven market actually is increasing all of the time when we look at the post-COVID kind of context of this. And as I said, motivations are changing. People want more work-life balance. They want more flexibility. They want to be hybrid working, things like that. So these are some of the challenges that we face, and of course many other businesses like yourselves will face as well, in terms of talent attraction and retention. In terms of EDI, of course there is still underrepresentation, particularly in construction. It is a very male-dominated industry. So for example, women make up only 15% of our workforce currently. We are, of course, always going to be looking at how we can increase that number, how can we make it a place where women want to work and where people of all makeups will want to work with us, essentially. And in terms of early careers, this has been a huge focus for us in the past couple of years, I would say specifically, because we want to make sure that we are engaging that next generation of talent, graduates, and even younger, going into schools and taking part in some of those events, to make sure that they are aware of what it is that we have to offer, not just within Pick Everard, but within the construction industry generally. So in terms of where we're at currently, we have grown from a practice of 380 to 650 over a relatively short period of time, only 3 years. We would like to be able to expand that further to 850 plus in the next 2 years. So I have my work cut out for me, essentially. I've got a lot of people to bring in. It's not just me, but we are still a very small team. So in terms of our talent attraction strategy, inspiring careers for exceptional people is what we always talk about when we're on candidate calls and when we're presenting at events like this. This is really our aim. We want to bring in exceptional people who are dynamic, tenacious, and really we want the longevity from people. We want people to be able to join us in their early career potentially, but whenever they join us, we want to achieve that longevity. So our strategic approach to recruitment supports our aspiration for growth. As I said, bringing in 100, 200 people in the next couple of years. This is going to be something which is a bit of an uphill battle, because it's not about just for us bringing people in. As I said, it's about making sure that they're the right people, they support our culture, and they're going to want to grow with us down the line as well. So to make this a reality, we are looking at the widest possible pool of talent. We are really trying to raise our employer brand at the moment. People often in the market don't necessarily know who we are in comparison to some of our larger competitors, say Mott MacDonald, Faithful and Gold, etc. We are still a smaller consultancy compared to some of those competitors, so it's important for us that we increase our market visibility. People know the extraordinary work that we do, the big clients that we work with, to be able to get those people on board. In terms of where we find our talented people, it's really a mixture. So we have direct applications to our website using Eploy, which of course we'll talk about more. We'll use LinkedIn for headhunting, talent pipelining, which is absolutely massive for us in terms of our growth strategy. Many of you in the room will be recruiters, you'll know what I mean by pipelining, but essentially we don't want to become a company where we're only looking at those live urgent vacancies. We want to be looking at who is going to actually be our future talented people that join us, essentially, whether that's 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, building those relationships, making sure that people are aware of who we are, so that when those vacancies come about, we can fill those vacancies quicker, essentially. We go to a lot of careers fairs in terms of our early careers framework as well. So we're talking to graduate students all of the time. We have a fantastic employee referral scheme where I think the top end is £2,000 that some of our colleagues will get for referring someone into the business. And we do still use agency on occasion. So there is a push internally for us to be moving more towards direct hire, which I'll come on to. But we recognise the need to still have those relationships with agencies, because there will always be those harder to fill roles, those urgent roles. Agencies often have the networks available to them to help us with that. So the transition that we've made really over the past 3 years, it has really kind of been this huge transition from agency primarily to an in-house delivery method. So whether it's a graduate, whether it's a cost manager, project manager, whether it's associate director and above, these people are coming more and more from us directly as an in-house team, as opposed to being outsourced from agency. So the transition, we've gone from 40% direct hire to 85% in those 3 years. So as you can imagine, it's been a massive, massive change for us as a team. I say team because it was, I joined the company last October, so I'm relatively new. When I was brought into the company, it was just my boss, who has selfishly gone on maternity leave recently, so she couldn't be with us here today. But it was just her as a team, essentially, driving this to direct hire. So now we have a team of 4. We're better able to deliver this and continue this great work, but it has been a massive culture change for us in terms of how we hire and the way that we go about it as a business. Cost saving has been 1.2 million through this direct sourcing for the year 2021 to 2022. So a massive, massive cost saving for us as a business. And there are really big, wider effects felt throughout the business. It's not just about the cost saving. Of course, that's a great tagline that we can talk about internally and externally. But it's also about the change in the culture, because when we have moved our emphasis on sustainable hires, on engaging with people right from the beginning as a direct team, talking to people about our culture, our values, our mission, our aspirations going forward, that is when we feel that there is a benefit within our culture once that person is onboarded. Not to mention, you know, we have less offers that are rejected, things like that. There's lots and lots of different things which have come about as a result of this direct hire strategy. So this leads us on to kind of the second part of what we're going to talk about today, is how we have started to use Eploy. So we have used Eploy as an applicant tracking system for quite a long time. It's the system that we use to advertise our roles on our websites, and also then when candidates apply, we will track their applications through there. However, there was so much more that we weren't utilising within that software, and we decided last year that this was going to be the time that we were fully going to push forward with it and make use of it to hopefully kind of support us in our growth aspirations. So we wanted to enhance our candidates' experience. Many of you, I'm sure, as you all know, when you are in an internal recruitment team, you're not just talking to hiring managers, people within the business, you're talking to agencies outside of it, you're liaising with candidates. There's so many moving parts within that recruitment process. Having that one centralised system has made it a lot simpler for us to be able to give candidates basically the best experience possible of coming on board with us. Streamlining our process and communications, again, having one centralised system to do everything through, a system that everybody uses. And the importance of data, really capturing and utilising relevant data to support our evolution going forward. Looking at what we're doing good at the moment, looking at what we could do better in the future.
So we knew we'd got a great product. We bought Eploy in 2019, right at the end of the summer, beginning of autumn. We designed, we configured it the way that we wanted it to be, and then we rolled it out to our managers in January of 2020, which I'm sure you will all know is by the time all of our managers were trained on the system and able to start using it, COVID hit, lockdown hit, so we weren't able to fully embed the system, the processes with our managers, with our hiring managers. They just started to get a taste and a feel for it when we had to shut the system down. We had to basically, everyone was furloughed. And then unfortunately, what happens then is we had to go through a bit of a restructure to look at the way that our business was set up. Was it right for us? And we ended up changing our business. So we moved into a kind of a three-prong approach. We've got group services who basically support all of our technical teams. We've got our design services who do exactly what you might think, architects, they design from conceptualisation. And then we've got the management side who actually deliver those services to our clients. So we went through a restructure, which meant that we had to change, all of our hiring managers in the system. And as Beth very rightly pointed out earlier, we had very limited resources in our talent team. So we knew that we've got these great growth ambitions. We knew that we needed to support the business. So what we did was we looked at recruiting additional people into our talent team, and we looked then at really kind of starting all over again with Eploy. And really, we knew we'd got the product that we wanted, but we equally knew that we weren't using it in the right way. We weren't getting everything out of it that we could be doing. So what we did was we had a meet. We had a meet with our account manager at Eploy, and she gave us some different suggestions and different proposals, and we put together a scoping document. So we established our project team, which was myself, Hope Pinto, who is our senior talent acquisition partner, and our HR director, Elizabeth Hardwick-Smith. We also had obviously a representative, Daisy Sands from Eploy, who's helped us throughout the whole process. She's been a godsend. So we established our project team, we scoped out what we wanted to do, what was possible, what wasn't possible, and then we just set about getting that going. So we went out to our stakeholders. So we deliberately chose a cross-section of stakeholders, some people who were really engaged with the system, who were utilising it as much as they could, and some people who absolutely just did not want to get involved. It's too much time, it's too much administration, I can't do it. So we started talking to those people, okay, so what takes too much time? What is so difficult? What can we do to make this process easier for you, to get you on board? We want you on this journey. The company is prepared to invest this money into this complete reconfiguration, this total rebuild of the system. We can make this. It's a fully customizable, platform. We can make this the way that you want it to be, but we just need your input. So that was really important part of the process for us, listening to the stakeholders, understanding what they wanted. And from there, we made a list of what we're going to stop doing, what we're going to start doing, and what we're going to continue doing, albeit potentially in a slightly different way. Believe it or not, before we went through this process, our technical delivery teams, so our design services, management services, were actually recruiting in different ways. They were using the system in different ways. It had been set up for them like that initially. So on the design side, people might have access to more information than on the management side. And we went through and said, that's not right, that's not appropriate. We want everyone to have a consistent use of the platform across the business. So that's what we did. We set out to go and make a consistent service that would be fit for purpose for both parts of the business, plus obviously the group services. And also, you don't know what you don't know. Because we were only using half of the platform, we didn't know, what extra was out there. We kind of had a feel for it, but actually sitting with Daisy, going through, working through the processes, she gave us lots of different possible options, lots of different things for us to explore and to then be able to, to utilise, to really help us deliver. So we had weekly meetings that were set up by Daisy. So our HR director would drop in and drop out. Hope and myself attended every one of those meetings along with Daisy. And we used a structured project, to keep us on plan. We wanted to make sure that everything got done, everyone knew what was responsible, what they were responsible for, and that it was delivered within a timely manner. So we used teamwork.com, which was also set up for us by Eploy. So we didn't have to do anything, they did all of that for us. We took feedback throughout the whole process from not only our talent acquisition team, but also from the wider HR team, because we wanted to make sure that when we came to the onboarding and actually getting people into the business and making sure they were happy and they were comfortable, that they had everything they needed. Okay, so when you can completely reconfigure a system to be what you want it to be, what do you change? Well, we changed everything. We just went wild with it. So we'd previously had, and I don't know how many of you would have the same kind of setup. What we'd already had was we would advertise a role based upon our line managers, our hiring managers telling us that there was a recruitment need. We would go ahead, recruit those, and then when we got to the end, we'd have a bottleneck where we'd have to get approval, from our finance team and from our partners to be able to make those offers. We're still, we're an equity partnership, so we still do have, there's 7 partners in our practice who, unfortunately, if they're out and they're busy, they're not always there to be able to make sure that they can sign off those offers on the day that you want them to go. And in a very, very, very candidate-short marketplace, we needed to be able to turn those offers around as quickly as possible. So what we did was we changed the system. So what we do now is our hiring managers put requisitions onto the system. They then go through a series of approvals, through from the national directors, through to the partners, and then through to our finance team who do their final check, and then it appears on the dashboard for our talent acquisition team, and they can then contact that hiring manager and say, we've got a vacancy that's been approved, let's talk about the role in a bit more detail, put a bit more meat on the bones, and then let's go out and do some advertising or do some selective, executive search and selection for some of those roles. We have something in our business called utilisation, which is basically the percentage of time that our colleagues in the technical roles, the client-facing roles, would spend actually working, on billable hours, I guess you could call them. So what we do is now, when we submit that vacancy, when the hiring manager submits it, it goes through, we just make sure that we actually do have the need. And I think that was really important for us because we didn't want to waste any time when we've got so few people in our talent team, so many vacancies, such ambitious growth plans. We wanted to make sure everything was done up front. We wanted to have one voice, one consistent voice to all of our candidates. So we wanted to have a tone of voice, for our adverts. We wanted to have the same consistent tone of voice in all of our communications with those individuals. So we set up a whole series. We already had some, but we tweaked them. We went through all of our email templates, from the rejections to the interview invites. We made sure that everything was all consistent with what we wanted it to be. And we streamlined the process for managers. We listened to what they said, so there were processes, there were stages that you have to move candidates through on the system. So you'd have, your initial application, the sift, you'd then have your, the candidates you'd sent to your hiring managers, they'd give you feedback, you'd then maybe arrange some interviews. So what we did was we made it so that certain screens were visible to hiring managers and that our talent team would do an awful lot of that in the background to be able to take some of the pressure off the hiring managers and really get their buy-in to that system. We wanted to maximise the potential for data extraction. So I am a huge data lover. So what we did was we said, okay, all right, so we're going to let the hiring managers have access to this information. What can we get out of it? How can we start to analyse these processes? We'd previously been using email contracts, so we wanted to put them all online. So we created a whole portfolio of different electronic contracts for different reasons. You can have as many as you want, and of course they just merge. The candidates already put the information in, whereas previously what we've been doing is taking the candidate's information from the CV or going onto the system, whereas now, click of a button, everything's there. And we started using something that we'd had available to us already, but just never had, the onboarding portal. So you can customise your onboarding portal to however you want it to be. So we've got specific documents on there. So, for example, benefits booklets that tells all of our new joiners what information they might need to know about the benefits surrounding their package. They can see their contracts. We have videos on there. You can put anything on there. It's, the list is endless. You can also put links on there to go through to like your LMS. We'd started doing that. That's something that we haven't yet implemented, but we will be doing, very shortly. Data, we love data. So we collect data. But data without, we say on there we're going to make data-driven, informed decision making. But data on its own is just a data set. It doesn't mean anything until you start to put some analysis behind it, contextualise it, give people some information. So we wanted to be able to inform the business, to be able to help shape the strategy. So what we did was we looked at, this is just an example of some of the, some of the widgets that you can get on the dashboard. I just really like the little pie charts. You can have there's lots of different options for you there. But what we can do is we can drill down on specific roles. We can drill down on specific business units, disciplines, hiring managers. We can go ahead and we can start to really look at that. And then we can overlay additional information. So I think in terms of a process analysis, you might have two managers in the same department. You might send them the same CVs, and one person will come back and say they want to interview all of them. One person might come back and say they don't want to interview any of them. We don't know. You kind of get a gut feeling, don't you? But unless you've actually got proper data, to be able to back that up, you don't then start to be able to form a pattern always, especially if there's a period of time between that hiring manager recruiting and then them recruiting the next time. So what this does, it allows us to be able to take data and say, do we have a problem with this particular hiring manager? It also allows us to have a look, do we get a lot of applications? And we filter them out. We as a talent team think that we've got some great applications. We send them through and they're not being selected by the hiring managers. That might allow us then to be able to look at, do we need to do some, bias training with that hiring manager? Do we need to do some education with that individual? It just gives us the data to be able to do that. And it allows us to shape our strategy. So, for example, one of the things that I like to do, I've gone away, collected the census data, so that what we could do is have a look, around our office locations, and then we can make bespoke targets, for those individual offices. So say, for example, Leicester. If we get the census data for Leicester and the surrounding areas, then we know what the makeup of that kind of geographical area is. And then we can make specific targets in terms of our EDI targets, that would be bespoke for the area. So that allows us really then, if we realise that we are lacking, I think earlier on the slide, Beth said only 15% of women are in construction. So, 15% of the construction industry is made up of women. So we know that we're already up against it then. So it's looking at how are we going to shape our strategy to be able to bring more women in. If we're underrepresented, in terms of, sexual identity or gender identity, or if we're underrepresented in terms of, ethnic minorities, then what we can do is we can go away and we can look at where we're getting our candidates from. So when I say shape our strategy, not only does it mean that we can, target specific areas, and set appropriate targets, but what we can do is look at where we've got our candidates from, look at where those candidates have, have they come to us from agencies, have they come from us from diversity boards, have they come to us from referrals, and we can start to invest more heavily, in those areas that help us to be able to really make sure that we've got a great workforce that is representative and inclusive. It also, we partner with huge, well-known retailers, banks, we do public sector as well, but those those companies, the companies that we partner with, they've got their own expectations. They've got their own targets that they need to support. And what this allows us to do is look at all of the people, you know, from the people that have applied through to the people that have been interviewed, to the people that have been offered, accepted versus rejected. It allows us to break that down at every single step of the way. And we have, you know, that allows us to support them better. And we have our customisable dashboards. So what we can do is we can create dashboards that are bespoke to different areas of the business, and then that allows them to be able to get up-to-date, real-time information in terms of, you know, where we're at right now. So our successes. We've got a bespoke system. It was designed for our business. You know, it's not for anybody else. It is perfectly fit for us and what we do and what we need it for. We've simplified our processes at all of the stages, which means that we've had better buy-in from our managers, as you can imagine. You know, we've still got some who are a little bit more reluctant than others, but on the whole, managers are really excited about Eploy. We've embraced our brands and candidate experience from application to day one. So what we're doing is obviously we're providing a fair and consistent hiring practice across all parts of our, you know, our business, and we're capturing and analysing data to be able to influence our future practices and shape our business strategy going forward. So some really, really great successes on there, and I know there's only kind of 4 points, but for me that's game-changing. Challenges, time constraints. You know, it's challenging, you know, going through, making sure you've collected all the correct information, making sure that you're configuring the system in the way that's going to be best received and best utilised by the business. It probably took us about 6 months to get to, you know, from start to finish. And I think I probably personally would have liked a little bit longer, but I know that the rest of the team would have liked it to have been done a bit quicker. We've got, you know, we've brought cooperation and compliance to the new process. So, like I said, we deliberately went out, we deliberately spoke to hiring managers who weren't engaged with it, as well as people who were. And some of those, you know, I think the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? So now they can see it, now they can utilise it. We can, you know, we can start to get more buy-in. A lot of the managers, though, now are really on board, really supported and really excited about it. But, you know, that was a journey. It took us a little while to get them there. And training and implementation, again, it's just time-consuming, and getting people to be able to attend those, you know, those sessions when, you know, when I said we have these targets around utilisation and people being available for billing hours for clients. If they're under a lot of pressure, then being able to get them onto the training. So we had to be a little bit creative in terms of doing some floor walking, doing some individual smaller group sessions, going out to offices, etc. So yeah, that was a bit of a challenge as well. But on the whole, we've loved our journey.
Our vision is always to put people and culture at the focus of everything that we do. So this is why we feel that Eploy was the right decision for us in terms of centralising the process, streamlining it, etc. All of the fantastic things that it's given us. And hopefully it will also give us the tools to kind of improve in the future as well. Now that we've got that data, now that we're actually using it in the way that it is meant to be used, hopefully that is going to give us just more food for thought going forward, how we can continuously improve. Of course, we will always be listening to our colleagues, taking on feedback. There is always work to be done, so whether, you know, there's specific areas within certain disciplines or particular individuals in the company that need more support, etc. We are a company that is always going to be taking on feedback from people internally, externally, to be able to move forward in the best way. And as I said, continuing to put people and culture at the heart of what we do, it is so important at every stage for us. It's the talent acquisition, of course, but, you know, without people, we are nothing. Essentially, we need the right people with us to do the job and to help us on this journey as a business. So that's it. Is that it? Questions? Thank you.